Writing resumes is really hard. I need a break. I'm supposed to be this return to work resume expert, and I'll tell you right now, a little behind the scenes, we're just scrambling around just like you would be. I'm trying to write a resume for a client of mine, and I just feel like every time I do that, I need to take a moment about halfway through and just clear my head because I get so ingrained. So what a perfect time to do my week 3 update. I'm going to start with the stats first, and they'll go right here. My highest weight was 383.3 pounds, and I weighed in for surgery at 344. Last week, I weighed in at 330.2 pounds, and this week, I weighed in at 328 even. So that's a 2.2 pound loss for week 3, and it puts me at 16 pounds total so far after surgery. I want to put a little bit of context to these numbers because I think that's really important, especially if you're the kind of person who has a hard time just looking at these numbers and feeling good about your weight loss. I think it's important to really look at a big picture when it comes to the weight loss. I'm less than a month out of surgery and I've already lost 16 pounds, which is like the best I ever would have expected prior to surgery in like a full month. Not only that, but if I look at an even bigger picture and I look at everything since I started pre-op on October 6th, I've lost 46 pounds since October. That's blowing my mind right now. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect this week. There is a notorious week 3 stall that everybody freaks out about. One of the main problems that comes from all of this is that people have a tendency to weigh themselves every single day, and they're monitoring their weight loss extremely closely, like what they're losing each day along the path. If there's anything that I've learned in my attempts in the past to lose weight, it's that you cannot look on such a microscopic scale. Your body fluctuates. Even if you're trying to weigh at the same time every day, your body is going to fluctuate throughout the week, let alone throughout the month, especially if you're a woman. So the biggest piece of advice that I could possibly give you is to just not weigh yourself every day. One of the most important pieces of advice I think I've heard so far is to just not even weigh yourself for like the first month because you're so hyper fixated on it right after surgery that you might lose track of what real progress and what real results are. I am weighing once a week. Regardless, because I just want to know what those numbers are and I want to be able to report them, but also I'm in the right headspace for it. I have absolutely no expectations. I have absolutely no worries about it, and I'm just collecting data. I've done enough research now to know that this weight will come off. There's almost nothing I can do about it. It will come off. How long that takes me is not in my control to an extent. Obviously, there are some things that I can eat that can help me lose weight versus other things. There's some control that I have, but everybody's different. And if you're looking at all these results from people right after surgery, it can just be taken in as some data and something to think about, but you cannot compare yourself to everybody else out there and what their results are because every body is different and every body is going to react differently and lose weight at different paces. So I really urge anyone who's not in the right mental space to be able to handle some good days and some bad days, some good weeks and some bad weeks, to just avoid it for a little bit if you can. I guess that was a little bit of a tangent. The point is, week 3 is notorious for people saying that they're stalled. And what I see a lot online is people saying, I've been stalled for 3 days now. First of all, you should not know that for 3 days you haven't lost weight. You should not be weighing yourself every day and seeing that. Second of all, don't put so much emphasis on it. Don't. Let your body figure it out. We're still less than a month out from surgery, which means that our bodies are still adjusting and trying to figure out what's going on and what the heck we're putting it through. There's a fair amount of people on week 3 that just don't lose anything and they just spend a week not having any weight loss. My personal theory is that week 3 is when we start introducing soft, solid foods back into our diet, which means that our bodies are suddenly getting a different kind of food and a different kind of nutrition than what we'd done for the past few weeks. And again, it's all an adjustment. I think our bodies are probably finally like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do about this stuff now? this stuff that you're actually feeding me something and you're chewing and I'm digesting in a different way. And I think it's just a little bit of a shock to the system and we see less weight being dropped. I'm not a doctor. I don't know for sure. That's just my personal theory on why I keep seeing this week 3 stall. So when I was going into my weigh-in this morning, I really didn't know what to expect. Again, I have no expectations. If I didn't lose anything this week, then I guess I'm just in the same boat as everyone else who seems to stall at week 3. And if I do lose something, then great, cool. I'll record that and keep moving forward. So obviously the latter happened and I did lose 2.2 pounds. I know I was just on my soapbox about not to weigh yourself every day, but I did weigh myself a few times during this week. And I'll tell you why before you get mad and you say I'm a hypocrite. I was curious about this stall that everyone talks about. And so I was curious if I would see the same things. And you know what? For the majority of the week, I did not change weight. It wasn't until the last couple days of the week that I actually saw some movement. So what I'm saying is if you're seeing yourself not losing anything for a few days, don't freak out about it because it's always possible that you could actually still lose by the end of the week. I believe it was Friday or Saturday, I actually ended up eating the most calories that I have so far. I believe it was just under 800 calories, which for a while I was hovering at about 600, and now I've noticed that I'm hovering around 700, and I got all the way up to 800. And I wondered, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't really know where I'm supposed to be calorie-wise. I just know how much I can eat and I'm focusing on macros. Actually, I might have to look back on it, but I think it was 900 calories. So after eating this largest amount in a day that I had so far recorded, I was curious the next day what the scale was going to say. So that's one of the days this week that I did end up weighing myself outside of my Tuesday schedule. And I actually saw that I was down a pound or so. So essentially, just give yourself some time to adjust and don't scrutinize things too much. Give yourself the flexibility because you're learning how to re-eat. That has been the big thing for week 3 that I've really noticed is that I'm learning how to eat again and it's all over the place. I've been weighing out 6 ounces of food for every mealtime. And depending on what I'm eating and depending on the day, I can either eat all 6 ounces or I don't quite finish all 6 ounces. I found myself a couple of times only being able to eat about 3 ounces for breakfast and saying, well, that's crazy. That's like no food at all. Because of that, it has gotten a little bit harder. This has been a pretty big difference with week 3 because I feel like when I first started, I stuck to very, very soft things, more along the lines of a pureed kind of diet. And so I was able to eat closer to 5 or 6 ounces at a time without too much of a problem. So I found that hitting my macro goals and my protein goals really wasn't that difficult. But now that I'm starting to dabble into things that I would consider closer to solid foods, like steamed broccoli and fish, scrambled eggs, things that have more substance to them than just cottage cheese or mashed sweet potato, those items I find that I can eat a little bit less of. Scrambled eggs, surprisingly, I just can't eat that much. It makes me very full very fast. So week 3, I've been really struggling with trying to make sure that I'm getting my protein goals and I'm getting my macros throughout the day because it's so easy for me to just eat a couple ounces of something and then not really be able to walk away with the protein that I thought I was going to walk away with during that meal. I'm focusing now on going back to making sure that I'm adding some protein powder to some of my things that I can and just getting it in where I can so that I'm not consistently missing the mark for those important macros. Another thing that I introduced this week that I've been dabbling around with is sweets. Now, I say this carefully because there are different opinions out there, and obviously I don't want to do anything that would jeopardize the success of my surgery. But I believe in moderation, and I believe in being able to learn how to have a healthy relationship with food. And so I am not abstaining completely from sweets around the holiday season. The way that I am eating them is so different, though. It is so different. My grandma made Russian tea cakes. I don't know if your family does this with some of their Christmas cookies or not, but Russian tea cakes are like a big staple in my house. They're kind of like a sphere of shortbread in a way, rolled around in powdered sugar. They are by far the best Christmas cookie. Like, so good. Well, of course, she makes Russian tea cakes and we have a little bit of a cookie exchange, knowing that I'm really not going to partake too much in any of these things this year. But I don't want to restrict myself so much that I end up being miserable and I end up making a mistake. And so what I've been doing is cutting them in half. They're already a relatively small cookie, but I've been cutting them in half and only having half at a time. And maybe later in the day, I'll go back for the other half. But sometimes I haven't. The other thing is that my sister made an absolutely delicious fudge, and I don't really have fudge, like, ever. Plus, I had this horrible experience with not being able to have things that were deliciously chocolatey during my pre-op, and so it feels like it's been ages since I've had any really good chocolate. None of these things are diet appropriate. None of them are sugar-free. They are all full fat, full sugar, full everything. But what I've been doing is cutting her pieces of fudge into a small, manageable bite and trying to just enjoy the bite for what it is. Altogether, I'm eating maybe one cookie and one bite of fudge throughout the entire day. So it's really not that crazy. And it's allowing me to enjoy the things that I want to enjoy, but teaching me that I absolutely don't need to eat 7 cookies just because they taste delicious. In some ways, this really reminds me of like exposure therapy. I have a major problem with portion sizes and with sweets, and this surgery is obviously helping me with portion sizes. I have no way around it. I just can't eat that much. But the surgery itself, aside from possible dumping syndrome, if I eat too many sweets, doesn't in itself fix my issue with sweets. So working on this, exposing myself to these things and being okay with just having a taste and letting it go has been really, really helpful. And I can certainly say that it is actually helping me. I really do feel like I'm starting to form this relationship with food that makes sense and probably should have been the way that I was eating the whole time. But it is so hard to fix those habits and to change that relationship and that mindset when it comes to food based off of the way that I had been eating my entire life. During week 3, I actually found the first thing that made me feel really, really awful after eating it. So far, my list consists of deli meat that just makes me feel really full, really fast, and not as satisfied after I'm finished eating. I get a very similar but a more mild case of that when I eat scrambled eggs. But now I can add a protein bar to the list of things that I'm not going to be eating anytime soon. I had one of my boyfriend's protein bars from Costco. The stats on them really aren't that bad, aside from the fact that they are higher carb. They have less than a gram of sugar and 20 grams of protein, and seemed like a reasonable thing that I could potentially eat now that I'm dabbling with some more solid foods. So I ate one as a snack the other day, and it made me feel so bad that I actually had to lay down on the couch for a few minutes. I got so nauseous, and I legitimately thought that I might have a problem. I'm not sure the exact reason why this didn't sit well with me, but I'm thankful that that's the only thing so far that I've noticed. I can definitely go without eating protein bars. So it's not a loss if I'm never able to eat them again. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it just might have been a little too soon for my stomach and it may have been a little bit too complex to digest. I'm not really sure, but it was the first time during this whole process that I ate something and I was like, I don't want to eat that again, not for a long time. Aside from that, everything's still going really well. I haven't had any issues with any of the foods that I've been introducing, and I really haven't had any issues with food at all so far. I'm struggling a little bit at making sure that I am staying hydrated enough. The last couple of days, I've only been able to drink 2 of these water bottles instead of 3 that I usually aim for. I was starting to feel it yesterday that I can't let that happen again today. So I'm working really hard at making sure that I'm able to keep up with the minimum of 3 water bottles. Part of that is just due to me feeling really distracted and really busy, and I'll get busy with something and then realize that it's been a while since I've drank and I really should probably pick that up again. But I don't have any major complaints or issues or worries or anything at this point. My incisions are pretty much completely healed up. My pain went away completely. So I really have no issues sitting up, bending over, rolling over in bed, nothing like that anymore. Everything's going really well and I'm really satisfied so far with my results. I'm really satisfied with my weight loss. And now I'm interested in adding in more solid foods and seeing how it goes. And if there's anything when it comes to solid foods that I find harder to digest or just not sitting well with me, because I think that's where I'm going to start maybe running into some things that I might want to hold off on for a while. So thank you so much for watching, following my journey. If you are interested in my updates, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I think there's a bell you can ring. I'm not a good YouTuber, so I don't really know the whole spiel for you guys. But I am, like I said, trying to come out with at least weekly videos on how everything's going and then some things to expect when you are going through this type of surgery. In addition to that, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a very wonderful holiday season, and I'll catch you guys in the next one after the holidays.